So we're going to get started, and just a quick, by way of a quick introduction, my name is Stuart Wright. I'm an action coach. I've been a business owner for 31 years in Harrogate. I've never worked for anybody else. Isn't that interesting? And I'm also joined today by an amazing co-presenter, which is Teresa Bowe from CCF Accountants. We're going to be talking to you today about restarting your business. We're going to be talking about, what happens next after the COVID-19 lockdown and what the new opportunities that you need to be aware of. Now, I've been comparing this COVID-19 lockdown to a little bit like a pit stop. And if I just tell you a little bit of history about me, my very first business was a sandwich factory. It sounds a bit glamorous, but actually it wasn't. Point is this, when I very first started, it wasn't a sandwich factory. It was me, a bow tie, a waistcoat, and a basket of sandwiches. And I used to go around to offices hawking my sandwiches. I started the business with 26 quid. But within 4 or 5 years, we were turning over £1.5 million. I had 40 staff. I created a beast, a monster. And certainly during the time, 13 years that I ran the business before I sold it, during that time, if someone had said to me, Stuart, here's the thing, you can have 3 months off where you're not going to be bothered by customers, you're not going to be bothered by team members, you're not going to be chased by suppliers, and all of your competitors are going to have 3 months off as well, and you're going to have that time to actually work on your business. I'd have paid good money for that. So a pit stop, it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you think about a pit stop in a Formula One race, the purpose of that pit stop is what? Yeah, okay, change the tires, tune up the engine, etc. But actually the purpose is to go faster when you come out, finish the race, and hopefully finish the race in front of your competitors. So just like when we're restarting a race from a pit stop, this is a time where potential problems might happen. There might be major cock-ups, there might be crashes, etc. So let's compare the reopening of your business again to the opening of your business the very first time. So these 3 words on the screen now, rethink, reinvent, reopen. There is no old way of doing things. There's no going back to. There is just the new way of doing things. That's the mindset to have, okay? The world has changed, it's shifted immeasurably in the last 8 or 12 weeks. Simple things like, handing things to the customer, entering a building, all of these things now have to be thought through and done in a way that appeals to the way that our species now has to think, because we are having to think differently. And let me just put it out there, reopening will be a tougher job than shutting down. So let's start off with big questions. During the COVID lockdown, we have, during my my webinars, the subjects of my webinars have been how to make the best use of your time during COVID-19 lockdown, okay? And we've covered an awful lot of ground. We've covered every subject from mindset to marketing, from systemization to building a world-class team, from goal setting to planning. And by the way, if you missed any of those sessions, then you can go and catch up on them on my YouTube channel, which is called the 7-Day Weekend. That's the number 7-Day Weekend. So first and foremost, let's get started with your contribution. In your chat box, what opportunities has the COVID lockdown created for you and your business? In your chat box, please. What opportunities has the COVID lockdown created for you and your business? Let's have a look at what you got to say. Don't forget, ladies and gents, make sure you've got all panelists and attendees selected so that we can all see your comments. So the first comment that's come in is more time to work on the business rather than in it. Isn't that a valuable thing? Think about it. The destination for most of us in business is to either increase the value of our business so that we can sell it or create a business that can work without us. Now let's just take the second one there for a second. Action Coach helped me when I was a client back in 2007 create a business that worked without me, producing more than £250,000 of profit every single year with no input from me apart from 1 hour's meeting per month with my management team. Now, let's say, for example, you worked on your business for 1,000 hours and got it finished. In other words, completely systemized, well-oiled machine, great sales and marketing strategies, all working without you. You've created £100,000 worth of profit per year for the rest of your life. Let's say that's 40 years, I hope it is. That's £4 million worth of value that you've created for 1,000 hours of work. That's £4,000 per hour. Now, you ain't getting paid £4,000 per hour doing anything else. That is why running a business is so important. If you work on it and finish it, that's the real value that you create. So Jo, exactly right when she said, this has given her the opportunity to work on her business. And the hours that she's been working on her business has added value to that business immeasurably compared to working in the business. Because working in the business, folks, let's be honest, that's just like having a job. It's no different from having a job whatsoever. So let's have a look. What else have we got in here? Change the way we work and how we interact with our clients. I'm hoping changing for the better is what we're doing. Learning how to run a business, exactly. You see, now people have had more time to read, more time to come on webinars, more time to actually get themselves some help in order to be able to move on to the next level within their business. One of my mentors once said to me, Stuart, if you want to earn more, first you've got to learn more. And he was absolutely right. I think it was the great Jim Rohn who said, work harder on yourself than you do on your business. You work hard on your business, you can make a living. Work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. Fantastic. Allowed me time to plan for my business. Planning is so important, yet most of us don't do it. Benjamin Franklin famously said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So yeah, absolutely getting time. That time to plan your business is so valuable. Why? Because it's going to give you direction. It's going to give you focus. It's going to give you momentum. And ultimately, it's going to save you an awful lot of time doing stuff that don't move you closer towards your goals. Most of the stuff that you do that don't move you closer towards your goals actually move you away from your goals. Completely valuable. Okay, what else have we got? We've got practical things like redoing website, working on marketing in general. If marketing is stopped during the COVID-19 lockdown, that's a really big mistake, guys. You know, actually, we need to be ramping up our marketing. We need to be trying new marketing we've never done before. That might be revamping your website, but don't forget, website is a brochure. It's a conversion tool. You've got to drive traffic to the website in order to generate leads. Again, we've covered digital marketing, but we'll cover it again. We'll go into more detail in future weeks and future seminars. More time for my family. A brilliant, brilliant thing to put in there. You know what? The more headspace that you give yourself, the more time that you have spending time with your family, doing things that you enjoy, the better your energy is going to be. So yeah, it's great. I mean, business owners, usually really busy people. So it's great to have a little bit of time to relax and meditate and do yoga and Pilates and all the other things that maybe we haven't had time to do in the past. And that re-energizes us. And you as the business owner need to have your energy in the right place. Moving to an online model, absolutely fantastic. So some of the opportunities that people are seeing is they've actually managed to transition to an online model. I've had exactly the same with many of the clients that I work with. One in particular had been telling me for years, you know what, Stuart, my business is a local model. I can only do this locally. And what has happened during the COVID-19 lockdown is it has forced him to go online. And now he has not just a national market, but he now has an international market. So his business is flourishing on the back of that, okay? Fantastic. If you can move to an online model, brilliant, because, well, there's great opportunities and advantages into moving on into an online model. What else have we got? Just planning on reopening and the effect it will have on the business as we have to reopen with the reduced capacity. Well, let's have a look at some of that stuff as we go through the webinar that I've got here today. So some of the things that I've written down in terms of the opportunities that have been, that I've noticed business owners taking advantage of during this time. As we said, working on the business, doing digital marketing that they may never have done before, learning about digital marketing, not just handing their digital marketing strategy over to someone that claims that they're going to get them to the top of Google or they're going to get them tons of leads on Facebook, learning about it in the first place. Saving money on overheads, for example. Some people have decided that actually they don't need an office anymore. New, more productive way of working. Some people have actually discovered that having their teams work from home has actually created more productivity and not less. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's because when they were at work, they didn't have the discipline not to spend all day speaking to the co-workers. Now, I'm not suggesting that speaking to the co-workers is a bad thing. Of course it is. Everybody needs that level of connection. But something has shifted. There are definitely, from my experience speaking to business owners that have got a team, have told me that their teams are more productive. Absolutely valuable thing to be looking at for your business as well. Can you be more productive with a remote working model? Brand new direction for some. Some have created new and better business models. One of my clients who used to mainly service the food service industry has now gone into servicing retail, and that's a much bigger market for him, and he's finding as well that he's got better margins. So some of these things have really opened up brand new opportunities that maybe people would never have looked at before. And for some, it has created a brand new direction. It's forced them to go in a new direction. And for those, a lot of those people, you know, that's been a good thing, because it's actually created new opportunities that they didn't even know existed, and maybe even given them the opportunity to do something that they enjoy more than what they were doing first. Better planning, as I think it was Fiona said, better planning, better habits, better disciplines. You know, if you've had the time to get into the discipline of doing digital marketing, of doing planning, of systemizing your business, of building a world-class team, hopefully those disciplines will continue after COVID-19, which means your business is improved forever, not just for the last 8 weeks, not just for the last 12 weeks, but forever. Better systems means more efficiencies. It means that you have a business that has value. In other words, the business can start to work better without you. Better team, including your extended team. So maybe your accountant, your coach. Certainly have seen a lot more people who are prepared to admit that they need more help now, which has meant that a lot more people have taken on coaches. Now, this might just be my belief, in my opinion, because coaching worked for me as a business owner, but I believe that every business owner should have a coach. So if that has changed people's mindsets in the marketplace as to, I actually do need somebody to bounce ideas off, I do need someone to help hold me accountable, I do need some new ideas, some fresh thinking in my business, then again, that's been a great thing. Coming out of lockdown, will there be the same competitors as before? Probably not. What about, how do you then get ahead of your competition if you restart better and faster than they do? Because if there's going to be a similar amount of demand, but less supply, then how are you going to take advantage of that? What about your marketing? Customers are up for sale right now. If you don't take advantage of that opportunity, who will? Businesses will also be up for sale. Do you know what to do to take advantage of that opportunity? If you don't know what to do to take advantage of these advantage of these opportunities, then you need to find someone to help you. Property, again, property prices may well drop. Do you know what to do to take advantage of that opportunity too? If you're not sure how to take advantage of these opportunities, you may need some help. And I'm offering help. So for the foreseeable, I'm offering 5 gifted coaching sessions per week if you're not currently working with me. More than welcome to book yours today. We will follow up with you. We need to have a telephone conversation before we have a coaching session just to make sure that that's right for you. But it's gifted, it's on me, okay? Let's get together. Let's talk about your challenges and your opportunities. I'm sure you'll agree it's a great time to have an outside point of view when you're making new plans for your business reopening. Now, as we progress through this session, if some of the stuff that I'm talking about resonates and you think, actually, you know what, I could do with some help in that area, just make a note of that. And when we come to your gifted coaching session, that's the thing that we really want to cover. We can't cover everything. So let's be specific about the areas that you really feel that you need some help, and we'll address those for you. Okay, so let's get started. I have got 9 to-dos to restart your business. So let's start with Reeducate and Prepare. Understand, first and foremost, what you can and cannot do in your local marketplace. Really, really important. You've got to understand what the rules are. If you inadvertently break the rules, and you may come across, and not just with fines and stuff like that, or creating a problem for yourself and for your team, but it may also be that other people will post stuff about you on social media, and that's the last thing that we want. What I would suggest you do is walk through your customer experience, look at your buying process. By the way, if you haven't got a written down step-by-step customer experience yet, that's probably something you do need to work on. So this is a great time for you to actually document it. Let's have a look at your step-by-step customer process. Let's look at the buying process in detail. It might need to change. It probably will need to change. But we also need to make sure that there are some wow points in there as well, because it's not just about getting customers back, it's about keeping them long term as well. So what do you need to do to make sure that you keep people safe? Help them to see that you've got good practices. Did your buying process need to change radically, or does it need to change just a little bit? If you're welcoming people into your premises, for example, it's not good enough to have a clean place anymore. You have to be seen to be cleaning all the time, going over the top. When I used to have my food business back in the 90s, every time somebody touched a hand contact surface like a door handle, we would sanitize it. And I mean, every time. We were dealing with high-risk foods, which, you know, we needed to make sure that there was no bacteria or infection or any kind of viruses that would get into the products that we were making. So these kind of practices are now going to have to become common practices and commonplace within the premises that we're working in if we're welcoming people in. So we need to be seen to be cleaning all the time, basically. People need to see the evidence. Screens in reception areas, maybe. Screens between tables in restaurants. Screens between people in hairdressing salons. Are you going to provide PPE? I was having this conversation yesterday with a hairdresser that I am, the owner of a hairdressing business, I should say, that I coach. And he's not really all that keen on PPE because he says, oh, it's going to be a bit itchy, it's going to be a bit faffy. It's not about it being itchy and faffy, it's about the perception. You know, imagine somebody walks past the salon and they see him and his team not using PPE. There's a chance that they might actually feel resentful about that because they might think, well, actually, these people are putting us at risk. Next thing you know, there's a photograph taken, it's on social media, and there's damage to the reputation. People need to see evidence of what you are doing. Tape on the floor to help with social distancing, directional arrows, all of these sorts of things if you've got a business where people actually have to come and see you. People need to see and feel that you're taking care of them. And that is going to be really important going forward. I don't know for how long, but you know, it might be permanently. Every single week, I would suggest you probably need to adjust, change and adapt. Flexibility is going to be the essence of what we need to do when we're reopening our businesses. Now, think about when you first started, how many times did you need to change things before you got it right? This would be the same now when we restart. You know, fear and worry is going to be around for quite some time in people's psyches. So we need to bear that in mind. You know, one of the greatest things about, one of the things about being really successful in business is really having your finger on the pulse of what the mood of the marketplace is at any one particular time, in particular, your marketplace. So what else? Well, we've got to rebuild a team as well. So, you know, there's plenty to be thinking about there as well. Team are putting themselves in a situation where they're dealing with people if they're coming back into your business. Now that's going to be either colleagues, it's going to be clients, it's going to be suppliers. If you're in shared office accommodation, it's going to be the other people that share the office accommodation with you. There'll be common areas, there'll be toilets to consider. Communicate with these people, communicate with your team as to what you're doing to keep them safe, but also what is expected of them. Make sure that you make that perfectly clear. Maybe you want to allow some people or all of you people to stay virtual for now, maybe forever. Maybe you have discovered that you can work virtually, and maybe that is increasing productivity, and maybe it is also saving you money on some of your other overheads. But consider this as well. One of the greatest human needs is connection. So we need to make sure that you're staying connected with your people, both virtually and certainly from time to time in person as well. Maybe give them flexibility over their working hours as well, especially when they might be needing to look after children or relatives. Possibly run shifts to allow to have fewer people in the office at any one time. I've seen this happening already with some of the clients that I'm working with. They're staggering the times that people are working so that everybody gets a fair deal, but also they make sure that there's less people in the office at any one time so they've got the social distancing taken care of. Continue to maintain that good level of communication that I mentioned before, even if people are working from home, because you've got to maintain that sense of community and that sense of connection. It's so important. It is one of the 6 most important things to human beings. So you've got to keep that in mind. I would suggest that you never, ever go a day without getting the team together on Zoom, at least, or Teams, or whatever platform that you're currently using. So keep doing that stuff. Maybe there will be some retraining that will need to happen. Things will need to change, and managing change is one of the most difficult things you can possibly do in a business. Get your coach to help you with that challenge, because it is one of the most challenging things. And there are good ways of doing it, and there are terrible ways of doing it, and there are average ways of doing it. You need to get some best practice when managing change with your team if you haven't done it before. It's not an intuitive thing. You will not click your fingers and suddenly be really good at change management. It is a skill, it is an art. Get with somebody that can help you with that. Again, if that's a challenge for you, write that down. When we have a coaching session, let's have a chat about how you can manage that change when your team come back to work. What else have we got? Well, we've got to do some deals. It's absolutely vital that you get your clients back. So let's think of some different target markets that you might have. So think of all your different target markets. By the way, if you haven't yet categorized all your target markets, if you haven't categorized your clients from A to D, A being awesome, D being don't deal with, then maybe now would be a good time to do that as well, okay? Start thinking of deals for these people. Now, I'm not talking about discounts. I'm not talking about that at all. So bear with me 2 ticks. Just had a text come in and I really don't want it. Move that away. I'm not talking about discounts, because for me, discounts is a dirty word. What I'm talking about is deals. So in other words, buy 2, get the 3rd one free, package deals, free service, etc. What we're really looking for is something that adds massive, or it adds perceived massive value, but costs you not too much, okay? Because discounting could potentially massively hit your margin. I mean, think about it. If you've got a 20% net profit margin and you discount your prices by 10%, you've now got to sell 100% more goods or services to make the same profit as you did before. So please try and avoid discounts unless it's an introductory offer and you have high lifetime value with the client. How are you going to get your top 20% back? So analyze who are your top 20% that generally provide you with 8% of your profits. Now would be a good time to do that if you've never done it before. You need these people to feel special. These are your best buyers. We need to get them back. These are the people we need to prioritize getting back quicker than anybody else. We certainly don't want them going to your competitors. Can you put something together for doctors and nurses and key workers if you're a B2C business? Even if it's asking people to buy one for an NHS worker. I've seen that working really effectively. What about the rest of your customers? How are we going to get them coming back? You need to be thinking like them in order to get them back. Some of them are not racing to spend money right now, okay? They're being cautious. So think, what sort of an offer would bring those customers back? Some will want to get out and go shopping, because they've not been able to do before. Some will want to remain at home. So keep up with the virtual delivery, the home delivery, if that's the kind of business you're in. But also, what can you do to welcome people back when they come back and help them feel safe? Announce the fact that due to social distancing, things might take longer. Announce the fact that maybe prices may have had to go up. So I had a conversation yesterday with somebody saying, we are going to have PPE and screens and it's costing us a fortune. What should I do about my prices? Well, actually, you know what? Those prices are going to have to go up a little bit. But we have to explain with compassion to our customers that, you know, we need to do this. It is necessary for us to do this in order to be able to continue to serve you. And that's okay, because people want your goods and services. They want you to be around if you provide good goods and services for them and they get benefits from them. So they will understand if you do have to put your prices up to compensate for the extra costs that you're incurring when you come back to work. So think about, what will you do to attract new customers? As I said before, customers are going to be up for sale. Some of your competitors may not have done as well as you have during this difficult time. So customers are going to be up for grabs. Give them an offer to come and try you. Okay. Sometimes it's great just to do a try before you buy offer, because if you've got a great lifetime value, let's say you're a spa facility, and although that might be a tricky one at the moment, but let's say that you are a company that relies on repeat business. Maybe the first time they try you, you're giving it away for free. It's high perceived value to the client, but it might not actually cost you that much. But if you acquire that client forever, or certainly for a good lifetime value, then you've done yourself a massive favor for a long-term profit. Let's face it, we don't make profit with the first purchase with most people. We tend to make our profit on a long-term basis when they come back. because it's 6 times cheaper to work with existing customers than it is to find a new one. Anyway, we still have to find those new customers. So we'll come on to sales and marketing in a moment, but we need to make sure that we are making the best of the opportunity to grab some of those customers who are actually shopping around at the moment. Can you afford to make them an irresistible offer to build that long-term relationship? Think about it. The best way to think about this is, what is the value of that customer in lifetime profit to me? Let's say the value, you work that out, and the value of the lifetime value of a client to you on average is £2,000. How much would you be prepared to pay to get £2,000 worth of profit? Would it be 50 quid, 100 quid, 200 quid, 500 quid? That's the acquisition cost. You've got to understand that that is, as long as you're getting a return on investment, buying customers is the job that you have in sales and marketing. Now, make sure that any deals that you do run them for at least a month, maybe even 90 days, okay? It won't be that reopening will be instant, it will take longer. So make sure that you are not just doing it for a couple of days or a week. What else have we got? Okay, announce everything. Really, really important. Everything needs to be announced. And these days it's really easy to announce things because we've got social media, but create a level of desire. So create announcements. Don't stop doing your social media marketing, for goodness sake. Make sure that you are building excitement on social media. Use the can't wait message. Text messages are really good. So one of my clients has started doing text messages announcing reopening, and it has massively impacted their business. So if you're not currently using text messages, I would recommend you do. Now, there's some great apps out there that you can use. We use one called App Toto, but there are others. And you can, if you've not done SMS marketing before, now is a great time to do it, to make some of these announcements. Build the relationship. Remember, relationship is really important in terms of retaining clients. Think about when you first opened, you probably announced everything. Do the same now. Make people feel special. And don't worry about the old person that maybe tries to social shame you because you're trying to sell or you're trying to reopen your business, and that's not the priority at the moment. Hell, look, we all know that our health is the most important thing to us, but also we need a healthy economy. So don't make any apologies about trying to reopen your business. We need to get commerce moving again. Otherwise, where the hell are we going to be? Don't make any apology for that, okay? Announce little things as well as big ones as well. If you've got sneeze screens, take photographs or a video of your premises, take people around your premises virtually on video. Video, remember, is the most viewed medium on the internet. So do it. Make sure that people have got that connection with you. Show people what you're doing to stay safe. Even if you don't have clients coming to your offices, still show people what you're doing to stay safe. There's a great piece of psychology. When people see the way you do one thing, they assume it's the way you do everything. So if they see the way you care about your clients or your team members and your suppliers and your co-workers, then they're going to make an assumption that you care about everything that you do and everyone that you work with. Sometimes you have to go a little bit overboard as well. Next, do your redo celebration. Okay, we've got through this thing. Let's celebrate it. Some ceremony that maybe that marks your reopening might be a good idea. I mean, ribbon cutting might be a little bit too over the top for you, okay? However, let's mark the occasion. Celebration is really important. We're all really good as human beings, and especially business owners, about beating ourselves up over the things that haven't worked, that we've done, or maybe that have happened to us, but we've got to celebrate things as well. So people need and want to hear good news stories. Give them something to cheer about. Celebrate customers and team members, post it on social media, thank people for their support, so important. Celebrate other businesses reopening as well. Create your own good news stories, because let's face it, we have to counter all the bad news stories that are being put out by our national media. Next, redo your numbers. Really important thing to get into. I would suggest that at the moment you must be doing daily or weekly numbers. Sit with your coach, look at your break even, look at your profit goals. If you've had a C-bills loan or you've had the bounce back loan, look at how you're going to get an ROI on that money. It has to make you more money, and the repayment has to be covered too. I would still suggest as well that cash is king, so still keep cash on hand. But if you're thinking about what do I invest that money in, there's nothing better than investing it in new client acquisition or getting your old clients back. So invest in marketing. Again, I'll come to marketing in a bit more detail in a minute, but it's important, it's vital that you get your customers back. Invest in cleanliness, keeping people safe, upgrading your sites. These things are going to be really important. So use that money wisely. Don't forget, you are going to have to pay it back. Now, I can't talk about numbers without a nod to the 5 key levers for generating profits. See, all of us want more customers. We all want more revenue. We all want more profit. The challenge is all of those 3 things are a result of something else. They've all got an equal sign. They're all an outcome. So you've got less ability to be able to control or influence those things than you have the 5 things that are in blue here. So we need to be looking at, if you're doing your forecasting and you know what profit you need to make, or you know what you need to do to break even, you've got to break everything out into these 5 key areas. And get with your coach to help you build strategies. When you work with me, we have over 400 different strategies to choose from over these 5 key areas. And the good news is you only need small increases in each of these 5 areas to make a massive difference. Let's have a look at that. Let's say, for example, you are this business and you've got 4,000 leads, you convert 25% of them, so you've got 1,000 customers a year to work with. They transact with you twice and they spend £100 each time. So you've got a turnover of 200 grand. Your profit margin 25%, so you're making £50,000. Now, if we look at small incremental increases in these areas, we can easily double profits. Most businesses that I meet are pretty inadequate, I have to say, when it comes to marketing and marketing strategies. Now, that's not their fault. They've just not been taught how to do those things. Or they've been working with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, or they've been promised stuff by outside companies and they never deliver. So it's not your fault, but that doesn't mean you don't have to take ownership over it. So when you take ownership over your lead generation, here's the good news. There's well over 100 lead generation strategies that you could be using. So if you're only using 2 or 3, let's say this business is only using 2 or 3 strategies, they've got 4,000 leads. They can easily get an increase of 20% on their lead generation. So they've got 4,800 leads now. Conversion rate, there's well over 80 strategies for improving conversion rate. So we can easily get a 10% increase in that area as well. That gives us now 32% extra customers, okay? Not 30% extra, 32% because of the compound effect. Now, in terms of transactions, most of us don't keep in touch with our customers anywhere near as much as we should. And if we did, we'd probably get more transactions out of them. 60 odd ways of improving the number of transactions that you get is easily going to lead to a 10% increase in the number of transactions that you have across the board. And what about average order value? Well, just putting prices up by 10% would increase your average order value. Look at this business, £100 going up by 10%, that's a £10 increase in average order values. A customer does not leave for an extra 10 quid, okay? If they did, it was a coincidence or it's not a customer that you want. That's a customer you want your competitors working with. In other words, it's a cheapskate. Now, without doing anything else to the margin, 10% increase on a business like this on price or an average order value leads to a 27% increase on margin. So the margin goes from 25% to 31.8. There you go. There's the formula for doubling profits. So you've got to be looking at these numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Who else can help you with the numbers? Of course, your accountant. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest speaker today. That's Teresa Bowe from CCF Accountancy and Tax. Teresa, are you there?
I am. Hi, everybody.
Okay, Teresa. So I've never done this before, so let's see if I can, what can I do?
I was going to say Linda's on the call. She's a Zoom expert.
Is she
Here
now?
we go.
Is she now? Well, look, I mean, as it stands at the moment, without having any practice on this, I think that probably the best thing for me to do is a little bit like Boris Johnson. You just tell me when you want me to move the slide forward. Is that okay?
That'll be spot on. Thank you, Stuart.
No problem.
Okay, shall I start then?
Oh, yes, please.
Hi, everybody. So my contribution to the webinar today is to talk about forecasting post-COVID, post-lockdown. And I'm hoping you don't all leave the chat straight away, but it is something that's more important than ever that we do need to be looking at. So next slide, please, Stuart. So why do we want to be forecasting at the minute? Well, for one, the next 12 months are looking extremely uncertain. You know, the next 2 months, never mind the next 12 months. So one of the key things is a lot of us have borrowed money. We've deferred VAT. We might not be paying our payment on account in July. We might have arranged time to pay for the last corporation tax bill. We might have got a C bill or a bounce back loan. So we've got a lot of money that we have borrowed that we need to be planning how that is going to get repaid. One major thing that I'm seeing with people is that there's been an awful lot of change, and people are keeping the figures in the head. And there's a lot of other stuff going around people's heads at the minute, such as keeping the business going, you know, the stress of looking after the kids because they're not at school, the worry about family that they can't visit, you know, everything going on. And then you've got the figures jumbling around your head as well. It is too much, especially given that an awful lot of things have changed in the business over the last couple of months. So we really want to look at doing some forecasting to get a handle on, you know, what are our costs, what do they look like. Additionally, I don't know about you guys, but I really want to sleep soundly at night, and the last thing I want to be having on my brain at 3 o'clock in the morning is how am I going to pay my mortgage this month, or whatever. So so just imagine having the relief of knowing that I don't have to worry about the next 2 months because I've got this roadmap that's going to show me where I'm going. And in the same way that when you plug your sat nav into your car and you start off on your journey, if you do take a wrong turning, or you know, it reprograms, so you can, you know, you can get a new, you know, you can see what the new altered direction is you need to take in order to get back on track. So so just excuse me, I've forgotten to plug my computer in. My battery's just about to die, apologies. Good job that I've not got my video on today. Okay, so there's actually, next slide please, Stuart. There's another couple of added bonuses at the minute. Number one is standard. You're more likely to hit your target if you've identified it, documented it. You know, how can you hit your target if you don't know what you're aiming at? And one thing that I've taken from personal experience is if you've got a target and your team know what the target is, if they know what is expected of the business, they can help you, because, you know, a lot of people are saying that with this COVID situation that, yeah, if you're in retail and your business has been closed full, you know, nothing you can do, you've not got a website, fair enough, but there's a lot of businesses that are still continuing to trade, and you can have a big impact on what your output is going to be. So involve your team because they can help you. And I know that since I started involving my team and telling them this is the work we need to complete this month, this is what we need to get out, we're getting the results. It's not all on me anymore. So it's kind of a win-win there. So how are we going to forecast? Where do we start? That's the next thing we need to look at. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of groans when I say the most important thing is to have your books up to date. Because if your books aren't up to date, your records, your bookkeeping, then how can we start looking forward if we haven't got the data that we can look back on? Because when I'm looking at forecasting, it's a two-part process. It's looking back as well as looking forward. So for the last 2 months since lockdown, the first thing to look at is, has a pattern emerged? I am a sad accountant. I love figures. I love looking for the patterns. I can find a pattern in any business, and not just seasonal businesses, but you know, every business has a very clear pattern in terms of activity and trends and that kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of businesses will find that a pattern has emerged over the last couple of months. Quite often, for those of you that work with Stuart, you'll quite often see that if you do a certain amount of marketing activity, or you know, certain activities yield certain results. So quite often you can see the correlation between certain activities and your financials. So I'm pretty sure that if we start looking there in the first instance, we might see a pattern, and that's going to help us start to plan forward. Because if you're going to be in the same situation for the next month or so, then you can assume that what's happened in the last couple of months is likely to happen in the next 2 months. But also what might add on to, you know, what is the additional revenue that might arise. Look at your pipeline. Now, obviously, there's lots of different type businesses on the webinar today, and it's, you know, different businesses have got different pipelines. So, for example, it might be, I've spotted Gail on the webinar. She might have bookings for the next couple of months, so that is a pipeline. If you're in the retail sector, then you don't really have a pipeline. But you do have indicators within the sector, so you can see, you know, what kind of volume of customers you've had coming into your either online shop or your physical shop. So that's a good indicator as to, you know, looking at what's going on around you in order to estimate what income is going to be over the next month or two. Another thing is looking at what changes you're implementing in your business which are going to benefit your turnover. So it might be that if you've had an online shop, but you're about to change it, you're about to increase the amount of products on that shop, you've got a new marketing strategy, then we can forecast an estimate of what we think the additional revenue is going to be from that. Or if the change is going from lockdown to being fully open again, then obviously we can start looking at what the estimated income is going to be. Now, it might not be back to the levels it was pre-COVID, but we can look at, you know, is it going to be, you know, what does it look like if we think it's going to be 50% of what it was before? What do we think it's going to look like if it's 100% of what it was before? If we're looking at the best case and the worst case scenario, then it gives us kind of middle ground to be working to. What I've done for a few clients in this situation is built them 2 forecasts, a best case and the worst case, because then they know, you know, what the each end of the spectrum look like, because it's great doing an optimistic forecast for the bank in order to get the loan that you're looking for, but the forecast you do for the bank is not what you need in the business. In the business, you need a realistic forecast that you can work to, that's going to help you get through the next few months. So moving on, sensitivity analysis is a really important thing to do when forecasting. I'll be honest, some people suggest I'm a bit old-fashioned, but I do all my forecasting on spreadsheets because I find them so much easier to work with. But what the sensitivity analysis is particularly on turnover, or most of it, what I'm talking about is on turnover, is if there was a 5% or 10% drop or increase in turnover, what is the effect on your bottom line? So the sensitivity is how sensitive is your profit and cash flow to the smallest changes or the biggest changes in percentage income. So on a spreadsheet, it's quite easy to do with formula to use, you know, to put in simple percentages to work out how close to the bone the business is at the minute. So do remember though, a forecast is a moving picture and not set in stone. When people have prepared a budget for the bank, quite often they'll produce a budget, get the loan, and then the budget will go in the bottom drawer and it'll never be seen ever again. The budget is often the start of the forecasting process. So what a budget is the initial, this is what we think is going to happen for the year or the period. The forecast is, this is what we originally budgeted for. So each month, as we work through the year or whatever period we're forecasting on, we update the budget with what's actually happened, so we can see what the final outcome is going to be at the end of the year or reporting period. The reason we want to do that, particularly if you've got a target of a certain amount of income over, a certain profit target for the year, if you didn't do quite as well in March, but you've done better in April, you're always going to see what the final outcome is looking like. So say a forecast, you should be, I recommend looking at it weekly. Some people look at it monthly in terms of management accounting, but monthly at the minimum, possibly even fortnightly at the minimum, given that the situation at the minute that we're in is changing day by day. Every day we've got the latest announcement from the government as to what their plans are. So every time we have one of them, we need to be looking at our forecast. Do remember, do remember that a forecast consists of a profit and loss account and a cash flow forecast, and a lot of people do forget that, and I'm seeing with a lot of clients who have just focused on one and not the other, that they're finding that there's a little bit of a hole. So for example, with a cash flow, the cash flow is telling you when the money's going to come in. The profit and loss is when you invoice your customers. So it might be that you raise an invoice in March, but you don't get paid until May. So we're showing the profit in March, but we don't reap the fruits of that profit until we actually get the cash in the bank. If you were going to choose one over the other, you'd always go for the cash flow. If the numbers are not your thing, but you're insistent on doing it yourself, at least do a cash flow, because that's going to be the marker of what's in the bank, and what you need to come into the bank each month to keep the roof over your head and the business going. So yeah, that's just my top tip on that, is if as a minimum have the cash flow forecast. I recommend always having a 12-month rolling picture, which means that rather than producing a forecast for 12 months and then when you get to month 12, start the process again for the next 12 months, every month tag on. So once we've got through May, add on May next year onto the end of the forecast. So we've always got that 12-month picture, so we can look far enough ahead to estimate what we're going to look like this time next year. And for those of you that are thinking, but we don't know what it's going to be like, this is why we're updating it all the time. This is why it's an estimate, because nobody knows, well, some people do, but not all businesses know with exact clarity exactly how much money is going to come into the bank each month, what the sales is going to be each month. But if we do have that rolling 12-month picture, we've got a much better idea of what it's going to be. And if we're looking, each month, if we're looking at it weekly, we can see by the second week of June that actually at the minute we've not got quite enough money in so far. What do we need to do in order to make sure that by the end of the month we've got that in? Or if that's not going to happen, what provisions can we take? What suppliers can we talk to? What costs can we revisit? Can we go to the bank and borrow some money? But if we're looking at that each week, then we don't have the doubt. We've got more certainty over what's going to happen. So yes. Can I have the next slide, please, Stuart? So there is support out there in order to help you with the forecasting process. So for those of you that are using the bookkeeping software like Xero or QuickBooks, there's apps, Fathom, Spotlight and Futurely are reasonably good. The thing that I find with the apps is that they're based on, you know, as I've already said about forecasts, look backwards to historical data before looking forward. So they do rely on the accuracy of the data that's entered into your bookkeeping. So you do need to make sure, like particularly if you're using Xero, that you are using the rules. So it always makes sure that you know, like certain costs always go to the same place, because I see sometimes with people that they've used a scattergun approach to doing the bookkeeping and things can end up all over the place. So if you're going to try and forecast from data like that, then your forecast isn't necessarily going to be as accurate as you'd want it to be. So for that reason, I think because of the situation that we're in, a spreadsheet is the better way to do it, because you've got the full 12 months right in front of you, and you can physically type in fluctuations which aren't conforming to the usual trends. So for example, you know, for retailers that have closed, I had one client who their sales for April were 0, but the online shop started gaining some traction in May. So, you know, a typical forecast from an app isn't going to be able to, you know, forecast a trend from that. So we're looking at a manual spreadsheet version of a forecast in order to plug in estimates for the next 2 to 3 months. So if in doubt, speak to your accountant, bookkeeper or management accountant to see what data they've got, what they need from you. You know, have a sit down, go through what is going to be happening over the next few months, or few weeks rather, so that you can get a really good idea of you know, what your cost base is, as well as what your estimated income is going to be. Or alternatively, you can join us, CCF, on our weekly Monday morning webinars, where we're offering free support. So that's every Monday at 2 o'clock on Zoom. And also we will be, I think it's the 14th of July, we're actually doing a forecasting session. But if we do get any indicators of you know, more urgent demand for that, we will bring that session forwards. So that'll be where I'll be doing a screen share and showing people how to forecast. So that's my bit, Stuart. I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Very, very helpful. And yeah, I mean, I want to thoroughly endorse what you said as well about past performance is the best indicator of future profits, is it not? And so part of that forecasting has to be looking in the past. And you said, you know, if you're working with Stuart, you'll understand the importance of doing that sort of thing. And it's what we call in Action Coach, test and measure. So, you know, one of the most important things that we need to test and measure is our marketing. Because at the end of the day, marketing is maths. People say to me all the time, well, what marketing works, Stuart? The answer is all marketing works. You just got to find the bit that works well for you. And the only way to find out what works for you is to test and measure it. Maths, science, that's what it's about. It's not an art. It's not an art form at all. It's really formulaic and really scientific when you get it right. So let's talk for a minute about marketing and sales, because you know, number 7 here is rethinking your marketing and sales strategy. So first and foremost, the make or break of your reopening is your marketing. Your marketing message and the mediums have shifted in the last 8 to 10 weeks. Highly suggest that you create a brand new marketing plan. It's absolutely necessary. By the way, if you've never made a marketing plan before, then now would be a really good time to start that. Again, if you don't know how to, well, my estimation of most people who don't do a marketing plan isn't that they don't want one or they don't see the benefits of it. Of course they do. Everybody understands the benefits of having a plan. It's just that most of the time they've never been shown how to do one. They wouldn't even know where to start. So again, get with your coach, get them to help you create your marketing plan for the next 90 days. It's going to be absolutely vital to make sure that you come out of the pit stop at full speed with the right tires on and you win the race. I would suggest you do a SWOT analysis. So raise your hands if you know what a SWOT analysis is, please. Okay, so not so many people. So SWOT, S-W-O-T, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are internal. This is your business. What are the strengths and weaknesses of your own individual businesses? Opportunities and threats, they're external. So in other words, they are what's going on in the marketplace. And today we're talking about opportunities, but we do also need to be aware of what the threats are as well. Your competitors are different to what they were 90 days ago. Okay, so we need to understand our competitors as part of the threats in the business and maybe our potential weaknesses compared to their strengths. Do some research. What are your competitors doing right now? You need to know this. By the way, if you never do any competitor research, you're missing a big trick here. Again, if you're not sure how to do competitor research or where you even start, mention that with your coach. Maybe if you're having a complimentary session with me, write that down. If that's an area you want to cover, we'll have a look at it. What are your competitors doing? What are they offering? What deals are they doing? How have they changed their marketing? You've got to look at what other people are doing. You may actually find that some best practice. You might actually find that they do something really cool that you really need to be doing too. Or alternatively, you might find that they're doing absolutely nothing, which is good news for you, because if you do more than nothing, you're probably going to beat them. What are your new opportunities? They're different to what they were 90 days ago. How has the landscape shifted in your marketplace or in your various different marketplaces? Are you now able to appeal to a different marketplace? Like the example I used before, you know, the movement of business to more of an online model has created opportunity for those businesses who perceived that their businesses were local before to now create national opportunity. That's just one example. But think, how has the landscape changed? How have buying habits changed as well? That's another really important thing. See, one of the big tricks in marketing, as I said before, is to walk a mile in the shoes of your prospect. Think like your customers are thinking, not how you think, but how your customers are thinking. There's a brilliant book written by a guy called Donald Miller called Building a Story Brand. Raise your hand if you read the book. Absolutely, yeah. All the people that are working with me read the book, so fantastic. Listen, guys, if you haven't read Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, I thoroughly recommend you read it. It'll change the way you think about your marketing message forever. And now is a really good time to read that book, okay? Because you need to shift your marketing message in this marketplace if you're going to win. The message as well has to shift from more to a more education-based marketing rather than features and benefits. Again, great book for you to read if you want to understand a little bit more about education-based marketing is a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Again, raise your hands if you've read that book, please. Nobody. It's one of my favorite books. I've read tons of them. So it's always at the top of my list when I recommend books to people. The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Brilliant book. And the section on education marketing is a real eye-opener, and it will change the way you do your marketing. And now is a great time to be doing education-based marketing rather than banging on about features and benefits, which is what a lot of marketing does. Understanding understanding what the market is feeling right now is what great marketeers are doing, by the way. So become a great marketeer, understand what the market is feeling right now. Community feel is constantly changing people's mood. Okay, the community feel is constantly changing people's mood. So marketing needs to be very dynamic. Once upon a time, I remember I used to create marketing collateral over a couple of days in a year and then create an annual marketing plan, and I'd created all the collateral for a year. I couldn't do that in this marketplace. Things are changing so quickly. I need to be reviewing my marketing collateral regularly. Testing and measuring has never been more important. You might put a message out there that is actually detrimental to your business, and you have to change it really, really quickly. So you've got to be on this stuff and be constantly ready to change a marketing message. Remember, fear and worry is still out there, and those emotions create heightened reactions and heighten actions within the people that are hearing those messages. So you need to be sensitive, otherwise you might come a cropper. Think, what in your marketplace are people fearful of? And on the flip side, what are they looking forward to? Because mostly, every human being is motivated by only two things: moving away from dissatisfaction or avoiding pain, and moving towards pleasure or a vision of something better. Those are the only two things that are motivating people, ever. So think, what are people scared of at the moment? And also, what are they looking forward to? Can you capture the essence of that in your marketing message? Capture the mood with your marketing messages and you will do well. Test it with social media posts as well. It's a great place to test your marketing messages: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Where am I getting traction with my posts or my boosted posts or my ads? Just spend a little bit of money to see where you're getting the most traction. And that will show you the messages that are resonating the most. Because when it comes to marketing messages, you and I could sit down at a table and brainstorm for 3 or 4 hours and come up with some amazing marketing messages. And we love them, we think they're great, and we put them out in the marketplace and they bomb. And the reason being is because we're not our target market and we don't know how people are going to respond. One of the greatest things my mentor taught me was, your communication is only as good as the response you get. And never is that better in marketing. You need to test and measure your communication to see what works best. So I remember doing a flyer once for my ventilation business. And on that flyer, we thought it was really clever because we solved problems with condensation and mold. So we showed a window streaming with condensation so badly that you could float your rubber ducks on the windowsill. What a brilliant image. What a great idea. We were so stalked with it. We thought, this is the best thing we've ever done. We sent the leaflet out, 0 response. So what I did was I went round to all of the houses where we put the leaflet, and with the following week with the leaflet in hand, and I said, do you remember receiving this last week? Most people said no, they just threw them in the bins. Those that did said, oh yeah, we took one look at that, but we've got double glazing. And that's not what we were selling. So we changed the message, changed the picture to a picture of a moldy bedroom, and actually we got a much better response. So remember, your communication is only as good as the response you get. If you put something out there, the best thing you could possibly do is get feedback from people as to what was it that you heard, what was it that you saw, how did it make you feel? Because then they're going to tell you how to change your marketing messages. I hope that makes sense. So just do some small stuff first, see which gets you best traction, and then the ones that do, that you start doing more of that. Each step of your sales process might take longer at the moment, okay? People might take longer to make decisions because they're being more cautious. And there may need to be more steps in your sales process. If you're working with me, you will have at least 7 steps in your sales process. Some of you might need 13, 14 steps in your sales process. But if you've only got 3 or 4 steps in your process, I'm pretty sure you're not working with a coach right now. Because let me tell you this, the National Sales Association recommend that you have between 5 and 12 steps, because their research has shown that that's when the majority of people make decisions. You might need to change your sales process to increase some new steps at this moment in time. So use of video, that's really important at the moment because we need to build trust and confidence. And why wouldn't you be using video? 80% of traffic on the internet is consuming video every single day. 1.5 billion people watch more than an hour of YouTube every single day. And that was before COVID-19. Goodness only knows how much is happening now. So if you're not using video to communicate, guys, catch up. Absolutely, you need to catch up. The more real your videos are, the better. Not sat in front of a desk, you've got to mix it up. Go for a walk, take your dog out, do it on a skydive, whatever you have to do, make sure it stands out. Sat in front of a desk is boring. Nobody wants to see that stuff anymore. Most important video you could possibly do, video testimonials. You need at least 10 video testimonials from customers telling the world how great you are. If you're not sure how to do a great video testimonial, again, write that down when you get with me or get with your coach. Get them to help you create a great video testimonial. Let me promise you, there is a right way of doing it and there is a wrong way of doing it. So make sure you understand what is the best way to get a video testimonial from your clients. Your sales now need to become more than ever more customer-centric. If you ever had a pushy salesperson in your business, they need to be gone. If that's you, you need to change completely. Pushy sales never worked anyway, so we need to transition. And now's a great time to transition into the best practice way of selling. Now, I'm going to be doing some workshops on this later on in the year, the best ways to sell ethically. So I'm welcoming you to come to those workshops if you're not currently working with me. If you're currently working with me, make sure you avail yourself of the workshop program and have a look at some of those, because now it's going to be more important than ever to be really good at assisting people to buy what they need. I'm assisting people to buy what they want. Forget sales. You're an assistant buyer, and that's your job in your business and the job of your salespeople. Sales needs to be done with more empathy and compassion than ever before. You'll need to have more training. Your salespeople will have to have more training. How often should a salesperson be training, do you think? My opinion, every day, every single day. You know, before a golf professional takes a swing at a golf ball, they take a practice swing. An Olympic athlete doesn't sit on a sofa for 4 years expecting to win gold. They get out there every single day and train. It's exactly the same as sales, because let me tell you this, there's no such thing as a natural born salesperson. These are skills that we need to learn. And most of those skills are counterintuitive. You know a bad salesperson when they make you feel like they're oily or pushy or cheesy, because they're not selling from any kind of decent training program. They're selling from either the old rule book on how to sell, or they're just selling intuitively, which is, let me tell you why you should buy this product. And it's just not going to work. So you've got to get your people to learn this stuff quickly. And if that's you, come to my workshops. The world has changed, probably 5 or 10 years ahead now of where we were going to be, because we're seeing that virtual is the new way forward. So we need to retrain for this and get good at it real quickly. Selling virtually is slightly different from selling face-to-face. So we're going to need to get good at this stuff really quickly. Lastly, build database and relationships. Right now, you may not get as much instant response from the marketing that you were doing before. I've seen a drop-off in search marketing for many products and services. So we need to get better at interruption marketing. But interruption marketing is not usually a quick fix. Why? Because statistically, only 3% of the marketplace will be in the market for your product and service right now. So we need to shift our marketing to more of what I would call a stadium pitch. If you read The Ultimate Sales Machine, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you come to one of my sales or marketing workshops, I'll teach you about stadium pitch. But point is, we've got to build database and relationships right now. Marketing becomes easy when you have a funnel of warm prospects to market to. In other words, people who are already aware of you. So building awareness. So if you're doing Facebook campaigns at the moment, do a Facebook campaign built around building awareness rather than an engagement, rather than lead gen to start off with. You've got to put people in your funnel before you earn the right to sell to them. Okay, so it's far easier to sell to people who know, like, and trust you. So concentrate on that at the moment, building relationships and building database, and you're going to win. Next, re-thank everybody. Why is this important? In your chat box, why is it important to thank people? Why is gratitude in general an important thing in your chat box? Come on, guys, I know you're still there. I can hear you breathing. Actually, I can't, but never mind. I feel good, and so do they when I thank them. Fantastic thing to say. I love it. They feel valued. It's just polite. Absolutely. Very British of you, Joe. Yeah, absolutely. Just polite. Well, you know what? Gratitude. I would recommend the practice of daily gratitude. The challenge in challenging times is staying strong, and gratitude really helps with this. You know, rather than worrying about what we haven't got, let's be thankful for what we have got, because there's always somebody worse off than you, right? Didn't your mom and dad teach you that? It's true. There's always somebody worse off than you. So being grateful for what we've got is a really good practice. It helps with your mindset. But look, here's the thing. Send people gifts, send them notes. It doesn't take much. Not an email. An email does not say, I care about you. It doesn't. Send them a note, send them a gift. It's far more personal. People feel it's massive when they get this kind of thing. They weren't expecting it. How many times do you get a postcard these days? It just doesn't happen, does it? So invest in that stuff. It costs pennies, but the actual return on investment is ridiculous. It's what we in our business call TNTs, tiny noticeable things. It's TNT, tiny noticeable thing, but it has a massive impact. Don't forget, relationship is one of the key formulas for long-term retention. In order for you to retain your customers long-term, there's got to be two things that are right for them. Number one, they've got to get the results that they're looking for from your product and service and be delighted with those results. And number two, they've got to have a good, strong relationship with you. Those two things multiplied by each other equals long-term retention plus referrals. And let's face it, referrals are the quickest, easiest, cheapest, most cost-effective way to get new business. Okay, so let's think about your path. So think about this. We're coming out of this pit stop. We now need to drive hard, harder than ever for the next 3 to 6 months when we come out of that pit stop. Now, many business owners have met with their coach for a pivot strategy session, and they've created their own customized pivot action plan to adapt their business model to how business is conducted today, including engaging the customers differently, shifting their products and services, and reallocating resources such as team members, marketing, and sales efforts. Now, which of these three curves, as we come out of COVID, do you want your business to follow? You see, the reality is that tens of thousands of businesses who are not aware of the value of coaching or what Action Coach can offer them to pivot now and come out of this with a strong plan to take market share will suffer the lower curve and may not be in business at the end of 2020. Okay, I know from my own personal experience I've been way more successful with a coach than I was without. Because what happens is we tend to do the same stupid things we've always done and get the same stupid results we always get. Human beings, especially business owners, are not great at taking advice from other people. And that was me for the first 13, 15 years in my business. And it was to my detriment. I know the value of this stuff. So get with somebody that's going to help you to thrive after this. If you feel like you can do it on your own, let me promise you this. If you ever did get to the top of this mountain on your own, you'll probably feel like jumping off. It's a lonely, lonely journey. You know, I often compare creating a business that can work without you to trying to cut your way through the jungle with a butter knife. The best thing you can possibly do, because that is painful, it takes a long time, it costs a lot of money. Best thing you can possibly do is find someone else that's gone down that path and take them. So raise your hand if you would like to be on the upper curve here. Raise your hand if you would like to be up there. Buoyant trading, thriving, driving through this stuff. What do you need to do differently? What do you need to do differently, and how does your business model need to be adapted in order to achieve the top curve? And think, what help will you need? Because I promise you, you can't do it as effectively on your own. If you believe you can, then maybe you need to have another think about that. Because if you knew that everything you needed to do to be as successful as you needed to be, you'd probably be there already, right? So the last one, rewrite your plan. You've got to rewrite the plan. The plan is not the same as it was before. Get with your coach and do the plan, because the reason why most people don't do a business plan isn't because they don't see the value of it. It's because they don't know how to. And they don't even, or maybe they do, they've done it before, but they've not implemented it. It stayed in the bottom drawer and gathered dust and never seen the light of day. You've got to get someone to help you not just create the plan, but also to implement it with you. Now, I've got a 90-day planning session tomorrow. If it's too late for you to get onto that one, I'll tell you about when the next one is. But if you feel like right now would be a good time for you to create a plan for the next 90 days, if you're free tomorrow between 9 and 1, we can get you registered. The good news about doing this stuff online is that I don't have to worry about registration places at an expensive hotel like Reading Park anymore. Now, when we're out of COVID, we're going back to Reading Park, by the way. However, at the moment, I don't need to worry about how many registrations I've got. So if you want to book on that, you can do it. Now, you've got to be thinking about all the different scenarios, okay? I love what Teresa said earlier on, thinking about best case and worst case and creating a forecast or a plan for each of those. Why? Because if you've got the plan ready, a plan A and a plan B, if we transition from plan A to plan B today, at least you've got a plan. In other words, if you can transition from scenario A to scenario B today because of something the government announced, at least you then have a plan for plan B. What I mean by that is, none of us know exactly what the future holds. So just come up with different scenarios, make a plan for each of them, and then you're dynamic. And every day, just be readjusting and saying, which of these scenarios do I believe I'm on today? In other words, which plan should I be following? Think about all eventualities. You do have to think about some of the negatives as well. What downsides could happen and plan for each of those downsides. What happens if someone gets sick? How do we then change our business if somebody actually gets sick with COVID? So, these are really important things to think about, and planning for those different scenarios will help you respond really quickly. So, we've gone through the 9 to-dos for a great start, and let's have a look at where you are. How can your coach help you restart? Most business owners are now in the warming up stage, or some are even in the sprint phase right now. Some might still be back at phase 2, like for example, restaurants maybe still back in phase 2, but many of us are in the warming up stage, getting ready for the sprint. Some of us are already starting to sprint. The effort required is going to be massive. So you're going to need to take massive action. And that is going to require a great plan and support of a great coach, now more than ever. You're going to need to be flexible. You're going to need to be dynamic. You're going to need to be able to shift quickly. It might actually take 6 months of sprint, which will be hard work. And again, it's much easier to go through that kind of hard work when you've got somebody else to bounce ideas off, and someone to hold you accountable, and someone to help you change direction quickly if you need to. So to finish up with, get with your action coach and make your 90-day plan. Those of you that are already working with me, you're still welcome to come to the 90-day planning session tomorrow, even if you did a 90-day planning session just a month ago, because I'm sure things have changed in that month. We need to keep that plan up to date, and we need to see, did you actually plan to do the right things? Have you done them? Are you on track? Just like Teresa said earlier on, adjusting, creating the forecast, we're trying to predict a future that is really uncertain. It's exactly the same with your business plan. So being dynamic about it and having a practical plan that you can implement on a day-to-day basis is really important, because we need to be looking day-to-day and saying, is this plan still relevant? Am I still on track? Monitor your progress towards achieving your goals, and get somebody that can help you with all of that stuff. Now, before we finish, I want you to think about this. List 5 ideas that you need to take action on today, not tomorrow. Things are moving too quickly for you to wait until tomorrow. And by the way, anything you leave until tomorrow has a half-life. Today it seems important. Tomorrow it'll seem half as important as it was today. The day after it'll be half as important as that. And a few days later, it's not important anymore. But the important things that aren't urgent, that's the working on your business stuff. Remember, right at the beginning of this session today, I said, that is the most valuable time you will ever spend in your business as a business owner. If you don't do that, if you only want to work in your business, you may as well just have had a job. And the one thing that you are prepared to commit to today. So you write your 5 things down, but in the chat box right now, what's one thing that you will commit to do differently from today to make sure that you thrive in the next 90 days?